Hey, welcome to Movement Church. My name is Josh Candy. I'm one of the pastors around here. And thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for showing up and being here in this moment. Man, today's a special one, right? Today is Mother's Day. And hopefully that's not news for anybody out there, that we could be celebrating and honoring the women in our lives of influence, the moms and the grandmas and the aunts and the stepmoms and the adoptive moms, and really all those women who show us what love is like, what compassion is like, and really, and I'm going to be talking a lot about this later, what tenacity is like. But I want to ask somebody else to come and share somebody that I just kind of I really admire the ways that she is a mom. And I'm incredibly biased, but I would love for you to hear from Heidi Tandy a little bit about Mother's Day.
My name is Heidi, and I am honored to share a few words with you this morning as we celebrate Mother's Day. When was the last time that you felt pressure? Maybe it was this morning. Maybe it was rushing to get to church, even at home. I have managed to be late or just on time, which some people actually consider late, to church several times during this quarantine, which is impressive, I know. Did you feel pressure this past week? If you're like me, I wake up in the morning and I can feel the daily to-do list grow and grow and grow before I even swing my feet off the side of the bed and put them down to get ready for the day. Maybe you feel pressure because work has sped up or slowed down, or you're trying to be mom, homeschool teacher, work, do all the things all at once, and you feel pressure about that. Honestly, when Josh and I were talking about Mother's Day and me potentially saying a few words, I started thinking about all of the different lenses of motherhood and immediately felt pressure. I felt pressure to communicate to all of the different experiences about this day. I wanted to talk to moms, not yet moms, grandmas, aunts, foster moms, stepmoms, women of influence, mentor moms, etc., etc. And I say etc. because I'm so afraid I don't want to leave anybody out. I want to really speak to the different feelings that we have about Mother's Day. Today is a day of joy for a lot of us. I think about the mom that is sitting on the couch holding a little one for the first time for her first Mother's Day, and that just makes me so excited. Thank you, Jesus, for new life. We are grateful for these experiences of Mother's Day. And then today can be a day of pain as well. One of the first Mother's Days without mom. And potentially it can be both joy and pain at the same time. There is nuance to this holiday that can't be explained in a few minutes. And so as I felt this pressure to say all of the right things about Mother's Day, I felt led to share one thing that I hope encourages you today. In this wilderness series, we've been talking about Elijah and Moses and David, and today we'll talk about Jacob and how he wrestled with God. In the wilderness, these men in these stories, like them, we can feel alone. Whatever your experience with today is, even in your experience with this bonkers world that we've all been navigating for the last 6 weeks, I want you to know that the God of the universe sees you and knows you. No human, even the ones that we live in the same house with, day in and day out, no one fully understands us the way that God does. In the day in and day out, in the proving of ourselves, maybe in the asking, am I a good mom? Am I doing enough? Do I have what it takes? Can I handle this grief? God sees you in the questioning. The divine sees you. Jesus, our relational God, wants to remind you that you are not alone, that you are seen, that in your joy and in your pain, your sense of being overwhelmed or under pressure, he sees you and he knows you. Some of my deepest moments of connection with God have been the times where I just sit in the quiet. I sit in the quiet, and in those whisper moments like we talked about last week, I don't hear big, grand words from God, but I just sense him saying, I know. I know. Heidi, I know. I see it. I see you. I see all of it. In the Bible reading plan that many of us are going through, we read a few weeks back in Matthew 10 that God knows the number of hairs on our heads and that we are worth many sparrows. You are seen today and you are known and loved by God. I'm just going to say a quick prayer as we transition to the next part of our gathering. Jesus, would you give us peace right now? Peace with today. Would you meet us wherever we are and allow us to know that you see us and you love us, even when we feel alone. Would you show us that you are with us today? In your name we pray. Amen.
Bringing all the peace, storm surrounding me, let it break at your name still. Call the sea to still, the rage in me to still, every wave at your name. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, breathe, call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise, breathe, call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus,
So I love that song that we just sang, Tremble, where we're asking for peace in the midst of this. And when we've been getting together here online, one of the fun things is we get to hear from you. We get to interact a little bit in the comment section. And one of the things that might be giving you peace or might be causing you not to have peace is how things are going on at home. So we always ask a pretty fun question here at the start just to get things started in the comment section. So answer me this would you rather question. Would you rather have a professional chef in your home at all times, or would you have a regular housekeeper? Never have to worry about dinner, or never have to worry about picking up the kids' toys, or dusting, or vacuuming, or whatever else. What is that for you? If you had to pick one, which one would you pick? I personally, I think I'd rather have the professional chef. It's not a shot against anyone who lives in my house or anything like that, but I love the idea of having that. So what's that for you? Put that in the comments right now, just as kind of a fun way to say hello. If you're new to things here at Movement Church online, or you've never worshiped with us before, man, I'm really glad that you're here. We're actually in a series right now. This is week 4 of a series called Wilderness. And in this series called Wilderness, what we're trying to do is look at the different ways in which we can understand what God might be teaching us through these times and how we're supposed to be following Jesus in the midst of this global pandemic. And I don't know about you, but it seems like the emotions are starting to run a little high, right? Like I think there's kind of this general building, and it's like a pot of water on a stove, and it's building and building to a boil. And you've got people that are experiencing fear and anxiety about the future. You've got people who are upset and angry and want things to be done differently or respond in a different way. And I think there's just this general grieving that so many of us are going through. Whether we've lost loved ones or not, I think there's this general sense of grief. Because we're all losing something in the midst of this. And when our emotions start to build and start to grow, I think there's kind of a natural question of saying, well, what are we supposed to do with that? I don't know about you, but I often think about, how can I fix the problem? Like, identifying the problems, that's easy. That's step one. But how can we fix the problem? What can we actually do to make it better? And for me, in these times, I'm really struggling with that. I can see that there are issues that we have to conquer as a people worldwide, but what about me? And when I sense that feeling of being out of control, when I feel like there's just this going on that I just can't handle, it's reminding me that I am powerless. And I get angry. I get frustrated. And maybe that's the same for you. Now, if you've been following Jesus for a while, or maybe you grew up in the church and you're just kind of coming back and exploring some different things, I think there's kind of this stereotype. Maybe it's a little Ned Flanders, right? There's this little stereotype about how the Christian should respond in times of high emotion. And it's simply the passive Christian. It's that Christian who just never has any sense of man, we're not going to talk about how bad it is. We're always going to pretend it's okay. And we're always going to have this just really strong optimism. We're never going to get mad. Or we're never going to lose our cool. Or we're never going to do whatever. We're never going to fly off the handle. But what we read in the Bible is that our emotions are very much part of how God has made us. In fact, as I read the Bible, it appears that these emotions are supposed to drive us towards kingdom work. And kingdom work is simply this, is the things that we are doing that are bringing about justice, bringing about the rightness of God. That if this is how God is intending to restore things, he's inviting us into the process of making things right. So for us, as followers of Jesus, we get to play a role in that, and I think our emotions should drive us towards that. Now, that doesn't mean that every time we feel slighted, we can fly off the handle, or every time we're sad, we can just sit in it, or whatever that might be. But we should understand those emotions, and it should bring us forward. Jesus teaches this idea in the Gospel of John. It's recorded as this. And this is one of my favorite verses of the Bible. If you've been around Movement for a while, you've heard me talk about this, but this is really, really key. Okay, so in John chapter 10, verse 10, Jesus says, "The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." A full life is not just numbing our emotions. A full life is not something where we are just kind of passive. I think that in these times, there is such a temptation to just numb, to retreat. Let's just binge another show. Kids will be fine. They can just go over there and do their own thing. I won't take care of my own health or my own stress level. I won't pay attention to those things. Or I'm just going to get angry, but I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to examine where those things are coming from. And I'm just going to get online and I'm going to fire off that comment or that post on social media and just tell people how wrong they are. Or maybe there's that moment where the fear, the anxiety, the isolation just feels like it's too much. So the temptation is to believe that we're alone and this is how it's always going to be.
I stand before you now.
love that. I love that we get to worship together even, through this. And I don't know how Rich and the team pull that off, but I love seeing that. I love seeing everybody in their homes and their own setups and recording music and playing along. I love that. And so I know that they are working hard at that, and it looks a lot easier than I think it really is. And so I just appreciate them. If you agree with me, go ahead and put something in the comments thanking them and the worship team for them doing that and putting that together. But I know that in this time, that song, it just strikes me. We need that courage. We need that bravery. I think that in the midst of this, Jesus is still at work, that God is still on the throne, that we are still called to follow Jesus and follow his example and to be about his work, his kingdom work of making things right. And so as we think about this, we have to understand that we have a role to play here, right? We have a role to play here. I hate some of these cliches that we throw around. And one of the ones that I really struggle with, even though there's truth in it, is a really popular one. So if I'm offending you, sorry. Okay, I'm really not trying to offend you. I have some issues with this cliche, and this is the cliche. It's let go and let God. Now, okay, so here's the truth of this. The truth of this is that we are called to surrender. We are called to submit. Worship is an act of submission. So we are called to put ourselves in a posture where we are saying, God, you are in control and we are not. That's what Sabbath is. It's like a set aside time to remind us that we are not God, right? Like that's an intentional practice that God is giving us. So yes, we should submit. But let go and let God, to me, is like right there with Jesus take the wheel. No offense to whoever sang that song or if you're a fan of that. But it bothers me because it gives this notion that we're supposed to be passive. That we're supposed to just kind of allow things to happen. That following Jesus is a spectator sport. It's a team sport. And Jesus is bringing us in on this. And he is the one doing the work. But he wants us to be a part of it. That following Jesus means that we are taking an active role in this. And it's an opportunity and it's a gift. One of my favorite stories of the Bible comes from Genesis chapter 32. So if you want to follow along, I'm going to put it here on the screen and you can follow along at home. But I want to read to you this story, and I'll give you some context afterwards, of Genesis chapter 32. And we're going to start in verse 22. It says, that night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, yeah, I know, it's a problem, but let's just keep going, his 2 female servants and his 11 sons and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The man asked him, what is your name? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God, with humans, and have overcome. It's this incredible story of this man named Jacob, who has this divine encounter. And it says that he wrestles with an angel, or in some translation, or some concepts, or some like commentaries, it's wrestling with God. And Jacob is forever changed by this. He limps for the rest of his life, because sometimes when we're in the wilderness and we're going through this and we're trying to follow Jesus, following Jesus is going to result in a limp. Like, there's no guarantee of rainbows and free money and perfect health for the rest of our life. Like that's not what we're promised. But what we're promised is this blessing that comes. And blessing is simply a future. Blessing is a future. See, Jacob was this guy. He was on the run. He had pushed himself out of the community. He had pushed himself into exile. He had stolen his brother's inheritance. He had betrayed, he tricked his father. He enrages his father-in-law. He was married to 2 women, sisters actually, and it was understandably a complicated and toxic environment and relationships. He's got them mad at him. He's on the run, and he's going to meet back up with his brother Esau, the one that he had betrayed, the one he had stolen from. And the night before he meets Esau, he is given this blessing when he wrestles with God. So for us, when we think about this idea that we have to be wrestling with God, that we have to take a purpose, we have to take our responsibility in this. As much as it might feel like we are being called, we are kind of being pushed to withdraw, to take that easy way of just numbing or vilifying or giving into the fear. But we see in Jacob, a man who is on the run, a man who is in the wilderness, he refuses to quit. He presses in and he fights. Today is Mother's Day. And we love all the moms, all the women of influence in our lives. But when I think about the people who are the toughest, who fight the hardest for the most important things, when I think about the people that may have just as many, or if not more, reasons to take the easy way and dig in and do the work, I think of moms. I think about moms who don't quit. I think of parents right now that are teaching their kids and trying to hold the family together. I think about people that are working in essential fields that are on the front lines, that are most exposed and during this time maybe underappreciated and definitely overworked. I think about those that are facing a budget crunch, are concerned about the future and are trying to make sacrifices and pull this together. And I think about how so often those tough, tenacious people are the moms. The people who refuse to quit. I think about how in my own life I have been blessed by so many incredible women, my mother especially, who have taught me, who have shown me the power of perseverance. Have shown me what it looks like to dig in and fight for the right things, to not give up. And I know you have people in your life that are like that. Maybe you're not related to them, but you know them, you see them. And I would imagine that you see that they have a full life. See, here's the thing about what we're going through right now. It feels like quitting might be a good option. And not quitting as in walking out on your family or quitting your job, but quitting as in just kind of pulling back, of giving in, taking the easy way out, of lashing out, of raising our voice or firing off that social media post or just isolating ourselves and retreating even more socially. It feels like just kind of numbing. And what we see in Jacob, we see Jacob pressing in, fighting, refusing to let go. I think Jacob was dealing with all sorts of emotions. He's on the run. He's angry at himself, at the situation, all of that. And I think part of him, sending his family, sending everyone that is with him over on the other side of this creek and staying there by himself, he was determined. I am going to get some answers. I am going to connect with God. I am not going to be passive. I am going to press in. I'm not just going to allow my emotions to dictate and run the show. I'm not going to allow them to tell me who I am, but I'm going to use them because they are God-given to get me to a place of blessing, a place of full life. This morning is kind of Josh's favorite scriptures, I know, but this is one from 1 Peter 5:7. And Peter was a guy that lived with regret and shame and all of that. And he tells us that we should cast all our anxiety on him because he cares for us. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. This doesn't say God is going to remove all your fears. This doesn't say sit back, God will take care of it. This doesn't say let go and let God. This is to cast, to throw, to give all that you have, your fear, your anxiety, your stress. To give that to God. It is asking you to be a participant in this. You are not a passive spectator. The Apostle Paul will tell the church in Corinth that they are to take every thought captive. To take every thought captive, to not let it run the show, and to understand where it comes from. When we are experiencing those anxieties and those fears, we have to understand where this is coming from and why we're experiencing this and what it's telling us. We have to kind of remove ourselves from that moment and say, why is this causing so much anxiety, fear, anger, whatever? We have to persevere, we have to lean in, and we have to dig in to do this work. So here's my challenge to you. Here's my challenge to you. I'm challenging you to ask this question. As you follow Jesus, how can you press on? Not in the Pollyanna, everything's going to be fine kind of way, okay? Not in the sense that, man, everything, isn't God so great all the time? That's all you ever say. I'm saying, like, as you follow Jesus, you are brutally honest with God. And you tell God all of your frustrations and all of your angers and all your disappointments and all of your guilt and all of your shame. Because as you follow Jesus, we have to press on. We are honest. We are honest about this situation that we're in. We are honest about what's going on in our hearts and our minds. And we wrestle with God. Because at the end of that wrestling, we find blessing. And a blessing is future. It's meaning. It's purpose. So if you're in that spot where you are feeling the distance and the isolation, and you don't know what you're going to do if you can't go and give that friend a hug, if you're in that spot, I challenge you to press on, to reach out in the ways that you can to the people around you. If you're in that spot and you are just so ready for NKY days, the non-traditional instruction days, to be over, and you're ready to mail it in, or you're just getting short with your kids and you're getting frustrated, I'm challenging you to press on because it's almost over. And I would challenge you what one of our Movement Kids volunteers challenged all of us to saying, how are our kids going to remember this? I would challenge you, if you're in the midst of the anxiety and the fear about your health, like your finances, about someone else's health, about someone else's finances, you're worried about the future, I would challenge you to take that thought captive, to understand what's behind it and where it's coming from, and to begin to ask these questions. What am I going to do with this? How is Jesus challenging me to press on in this time? How can I cast those anxieties towards him? Because here's the thing. Movement church is yet to close. Because church is essential. Not Sunday morning, us showing up at 10:30 at a building. That's honestly not essential in my book. Because the church is essential. And we all know the nursery rhymes and those cliches. The church is not a building. The church is not a worship service. But the church is a group of people that are providing hope and truth and love. The church is a group of people who press on, who wrestle with God. The church is a group of people that in the wilderness, they are still seeking God. They are still helping other people find and follow Jesus. And that's the kind of church that's essential. That's the church we want to be. We want to be those followers of Jesus who press on. Not because we have to be passive, not because we always have to be positive, but because we believe there's a blessing coming. There is a future, there is a purpose, there is a meaning, there is hope. because God is still on the throne. Let me pray with you. Father, in these wilderness moments, we need to be reminded of what you're doing. And so thank you for your Bible, for your word, for these stories of people who interacted with you that we can take hope in. Thank you for this story of Jacob. And we can read about how he wrestled with you, or an angel, or a messenger, or someone of you, this divine presence. He wrestled, and he limped for the rest of his life, but he also received that blessing. And so God, help us to see all of our limps in that light. Help us to see those moments where we fight to be close and to connect with you as moments of blessing. Help us to see what you're doing in our midst. In your son's name we pray. Amen. So right now I want to lead you in communion. And so if you need to, right there in your home, go ahead and get some elements. And elements can simply be bread or juice, or it could be crackers and water or whatever. But a couple of things, tangible things to set aside that help us remember what Jesus did. Because in communion, you call it Eucharist, you call it the Lord's Supper, whatever you call it, but in this act, we have the opportunity to dig in, to declare that the work is not done. Because in communion, what we are doing is we are remembering the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, but we are also celebrating the victory that was won there. And that's just a fancy way of putting it this way, that God is at work of making things right, of restoring, of forgiving, of remaking things as they should be. And so whenever we have those moments where we look around and say, this isn't right, and that's a holy anger. Whenever we have this sense that hey, surely God did not intend it this way, we're probably absolutely correct. And we take communion as a way of saying we celebrate what was won and what happened and what was given, and we anticipate what's coming. We dig in, we fight, we press on. So right now, I'd encourage you to take that bread or take that cracker or whatever it is. Whatever you have that's going to represent the body of Jesus shed. And if you're alone, maybe just say this to yourself, or if you're sharing with your family, say this as they take it, but give that to that person. Extend that to whoever you're with, or hold that in front of yourself and go ahead and eat it. And as you're taking it or as you're giving it, understand this and say this, that this is the body of Christ broken for you, broken for me. And then take that juice or that water or whatever, that whatever is going to represent the blood of Christ, the blood of Jesus that was shed. In the same way as you extend that to someone or you take it yourself, go ahead and speak that truth, that word of reminder that this is the blood of Christ shed for you. Amen. I hope that communion is always something, no matter where we do it or how we do it or when, that we can use as a time to remember, to reflect, and to declare that victory is going to be won. I'm so glad that you made time to be with us this morning. I can't even begin to express how special it is to know that the church is still ongoing, that we are still pursuing God's mission, and that we're doing this together. If you're new, if this is all new to you, if we haven't met, man, I would just challenge you. I would challenge you to reach out to take a step. That right now, in the comments, there's going to be a link to a Connect card. And simply put, that's just a way for you to kind of raise your hand and make yourself known. And there's going to be all kinds of ways coming out of that where we can talk about how to take a next step, whether it's joining a group or getting baptized or just really beginning to take steps in following Jesus. Man, I would love to talk to you about that. We are here for you. So if you have prayer, if you have concerns, if you just want somebody to reach out to say hello, if you're one of those people feeling really isolated and you want that, then fill out that Connect card. We'll love to follow up with you. I also know that for many of us, this whole digital online thing might be getting a little old. You don't want to go to another Zoom meeting. You don't want to do church online anymore. I know that for some of us, this is kind of a breath of fresh air, but for others, this is really getting old. I encourage you to press on and continue. To understand that this is still us worshiping, and this still matters. And yes, this is still essential. If you call Movement Church home, one of the ways that you can continue to worship is by giving. You can go to our website, or you can use our app, and you can give financially through that. And we welcome that, and we celebrate that. As a church, we want to be here for our community, for our people in times of need, and we want to be a church that continues to press in, to press on, and pursue that mission that he has for us, to help other people find and follow Jesus. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.